Well, thank you, Bob. That's one of the nicest introductions I can remember. I very much appreciate that, those kind words. Bob and I are good friends. We go back a long, long way. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you here today and bring greetings from my party. I feel very much at home here as a fellow tradesman, a fellow building trades worker, somebody that raised a family on tradesmen's wages. And thank you also for the hospitality last night. Absolutely beautiful setting and a full room of fine people. We enjoyed the hospitality right until they closed the bar down and we had to leave, I would say. Let me also say one thing before I get going here. I know we all have the greatest respect for our colleague Bob Blakely, accomplished representative of the building trades, a tradesman himself, a great legal mind, but there's something you might not know about our buddy Bob. He has an alter ego action hero. Let me explain that a little bit. Bob and I were in my office a couple of weeks ago, chewing the bit and telling lies and reliving old glories, as old trade unionists are wont to do. And we heard this horrible cry from next door, like literally a howl of pain from somebody next door. And we thought they've stubbed their toe, or I think Bob said maybe they knackered themselves, I think was his theory, as an authority, I suppose, on these things. But it actually didn't let up, you know, he kept howling, right? And the howling went to a scream, and then he started calling for help when we realized this is no joke. So we ran next door, and the door's locked. And these are big, old oak doors. This is the sixth floor of Center Block. The doors are like 3 inches of solid oak, so there was no way we were going to break this door down. We call security. We're waiting around sort of with our thumbs up our ass waiting for security, and this guy's howling even louder. And the next time I turn around, there's Bob Blakey has picked up the great big flagpole that sits outside my office with a great big metal base on it, about 20 pounds. And he starts ramming the tempered glass window with this flagpole and bash and crash, the noise up and down the halls, until he busts through the glass. We opened the door and we found this poor guy. I'm laughing now, it wasn't funny. He had trapped both of his arms somehow in these huge sliding windows. And, I think he had all of his fingers broken or something. He was in a real emergency distress. So long story short, he's not only a competent legal mind, he's a good guy to have around in an emergency. If any of you ever get your cat stuck in a tree or something, you know who to call. Man of action, Bob Blakely. It's true, every word of this is true. I couldn't make stuff like that up. But I want to emphasize how important it is that you're here on Parliament Hill with the Legislative Conference of the Building Trades. And I say this as a fellow tradesman and as a parliamentarian, I can say without any hesitation that 99% of members in Parliament, and that includes those who will speak to you today, don't have a clue about our industry. I mean, the largest private sector industry, the largest private sector employer, and members of Parliament have no concept of A, what it's like to raise a family on a tradesman's wages, B, the complexities of an industry with a transient workforce and no fixed workplace, the complexity of multi-employer benefit plans, the complexities of a human resources strategy for an industry like ours. And let me just stop right there and say one thing categorically. A temporary foreign workers program is not a human resources strategy. It is the polar opposite of a human resources strategy. It means you have no strategy if that's what your plan is. And I can tell you, while I'm on that subject, the International Building Trades Unions represented here today figured out 100 years ago how to deal with regional skill shortages and regional skill surpluses. They had the pass card system through their unions across international borders, and I would suggest that the next time that we speak to Jason Kenney or Chris Alexander, our Minister of Immigration, the solution to these skill shortages lies in a good part with opening up that border between our best friend and our greatest trade partner, the United States, so that skilled workers can travel freely to and from our two countries to fill those legitimate trade shortages that are bound to apply. That's the system that we devised 100 years ago, and it would still serve us well. I also think it's important that you're here lobbying members of Parliament from a legislative point of view. I mean, obviously, no collective agreement and no legislation is going to protect the interests of your workers, but we do need the legislative framework within which unions can function and flourish and do their job. And that's where I'm proud to represent you, I hope, and your issues in the Parliament of Canada. The main thing is, though, no collective agreement and no legislation can really represent the best interests of your members. The theme that I want to talk to you about in the few minutes we have today is very much that our strength is in our skill. Again, and I think nobody knows it better than the building trades unions, your best job security is the fact that when you wear that union sticker on your hard hat, it means that you're the most highly skilled, work the most safely, and you're the most productive construction worker that money can buy, and therefore your members are providing the best value for the construction industry dollar invested. That's how we keep our market share, and that's how your members get full employment year-round, because of the strength being in the skill. But key and foremost in the building trades human resources strategy and skill development, of course, is apprenticeship. And that's the issue I want to talk to you about today. I want to congratulate the building trades for their initiative, Journeyman Inc. The biggest problem when I was a union leader with the Carpenters Union in Manitoba was how to attract and retain apprentices. We searched high and low to try and get apprentices into the trades, and I'm realizing now that part of our problem was we missed 50% of the population. We failed to invite women into the skilled trades in a serious and meaningful way. We failed to accommodate and to overcome the barriers to participation, and as a result, there's like 4% of the in non-traditional occupations and trades, women apprentices, exactly the same figure as it was in 1985 and 1986 when I was a union rep for the Carpenters Union. That's a failure, folks, but I'm heartened and encouraged to see the legitimate steps that the building trades unions in this room have undertaken to try and address that. I also want to give credit where credit is due. I thought Kelly Leitch, our Minister of Labour, did a really good job yesterday at your function, your banquet, by paying tribute to those women in the trades that were represented there that night. I think it was a very proud moment. But there's two barriers I want to deal with today, and I'll close my remarks with those. I think from a policy point of view, the next legislative conference that you guys hold could deal with two of those problems of promoting apprenticeship. One is an idea that I picked up from a fellow on the West Coast, a training coordinator for the International Union of Painters and Allied Workers, a guy named Dave Holmes. I don't know if Dave is here today. But I was having lunch with him, and he had a great idea. I sit on the Government Operations Committee that deals with government contracting, government procurement. If we want to, build a bigger pie and create a bigger demand for apprentices, why doesn't every federal government construction project stipulate in their general conditions and specifications on a tender document that there has to be, in order to qualify, the bid has to include proof that you intend to use Red Seal certification, journey persons certified in your bid, and the appropriate ratio of apprentices. That simple mention of apprentices in the tender documents of government procurement construction contracts would put your money where your mouth is as far as the federal government's point of view is, and I believe encourage great more opportunity for apprentices in the skilled trades. The second thing, and one of the reasons that I think we've had a hard time attracting and retaining apprentices, is one of the single biggest reasons they drop out and fail to complete whether it's women in the trades or generally any apprentice, is income maintenance. Now, I hope I can encourage the building trades unions, the council, to look at this as maybe one of our next big achievements. Why is there a 1-week waiting period for an apprentice before he begins to collect EI when he goes to his school component? There's simply no justification within the EI Act or with the spirit or the letter of the apprenticeship system that they should be treated as if they've lost their job and are paying a deductible before they can start to collect insurance. In the training section of the Employment Insurance Act, it clearly contemplates that an apprentice in their school component can collect income maintenance from EI. It doesn't mean they're unemployed. We should be pushing the government to do away with that 1-week waiting period for apprentices, and I think we should be pushing the government now so that we see it as a key element in the 2015 federal surplus budget and make it an election issue in the 2015 general election. I know a lot of you in this room were part of the push to reduce that from a 2-week waiting period to a 1-week waiting period, and that was significant. I believe, Bob, it would have been Jane Stewart in the old days as the Minister of Labor at the Minister of Human Resources at the time. But we're talking 15 years ago. I mean, there is simply no justification anymore. So I firmly believe if we do those two things, we can make manifest the spirit of promoting apprenticeship more than any apprenticeship grant and more than any apprenticeship loan, create the demand for them by including apprenticeship reference in any tender document, and eliminate that 1-week waiting period. We'll have more apprentices choosing the skilled trades and more apprentices completing and getting their certification. Now, those are the messages I wanted to bring to you today, brothers and sisters. So other than to say thank you for including me in your day and thank you for the warm welcome that I always receive, I'll excuse myself and say thank you.